I met this kid who was about 3 years older than me on the bus one day. Let's call him Alex. Our friendship started out pretty innocent, to be honest. We'd mostly talk about video games over anything else. One day, he started talking about his cousin that used to own a pawn shop that was now closing. So if I wanted, he could give me some of the N64 cartridges he had doubles of for free. I was interested, of course, and he said he would get back to me about it, but never did. Time passed, and he became increasingly strange about the games that never showed up from his cousin, asking me what type of things I would be willing to give up for these games that were supposed to be free, and even joking that he would have me sell drugs in exchange. I was young, but this kind of made me uncomfortable about him. Yet still, I was forced to see him every day after school as he lived 2 houses down from me. One day, while we were getting off the bus, he stopped me to talk but was fixated on my eyes for some reason. Not giving me eye contact, but staring at my eyes as if he was looking for something. Suddenly, he reached out and took some of my eyelashes. He told me if I blew them away, I can make any wish I want and it would come true. Hoping to get away from this conversation, I did and went home. The next day, I saw him at the bus stop and he was visibly shaken up. He started telling me that we messed with forces we shouldn't have and that I had been cursed and that I have a lump of poison in my throat that will be released if I tell anyone about it. He called it black magic and told me his grandfather had taught him what he knew. This was all making me extremely anxious, and I already had problems with early OCD and obsessive thoughts. He then explained that my parents would die unless I gave him a specific item, an N64 cartridge. I did it without thinking about it. He also borrowed my bike once to go to the store where he got a very strong mint spray and told me I had to drink it, then kiss my mom and get some into her mouth, I know, or she would die due to these forces. I also did that as well, sadly. He kept asking for more things and increasing the consequences each time. It sort of became his thing. He even once scraped a sharp knife across my wrist, not far from the bus stop, then explained if it had caught on a piece of skin and bled, it would have meant something was wrong. I cried a lot while he would explain these things to me, and the amount of emotion he displayed made it seem more than just simple bullying to get some games. I have always wondered if he was truly insane and manipulative, or if there was anything supernatural really at work. It continues to affect me 20 years later as I'm innately superstitious and diagnosed with OCD. Eventually, I started avoiding him on the bus as much as I could, then convinced my mom to drive me to school from then on. Years after this, anytime I would leave the house, I would fear him seeing me. It honestly turned me into more of an introvert than I had ever been before. And I pulled away from a lot of my family, like my brother, who couldn't understand why I didn't want to walk to the store with him anymore. Eventually, Alex moved away. And I took comfort in finding out that one of my friends from school and his brother had an experience with Alex where he broke a window of theirs in the middle of the night, and they confirmed he was insane. I started to believe that none of it was real, but it did take some time for this to happen. I still hope I never meet this guy again. I don't know if I would punch him in the face for what he did to me, or honestly have a panic attack. So I go walking in the cemetery near my house almost every day. This time, I decided I would go later in the day, around 7 p.m. when it was still pretty light out. I had my phone and pepper spray with me and at the ready. As I crossed the busy street which stood between my neighborhood and the cemetery, a black SUV slowed down next to me. The windows rolled down as the usual catcalling stuff began. Being that I get catcalled really often, I ignored it and expected the SUV to keep driving once I crossed into the cemetery. Well, once I was in the cemetery, the car made a U turn and proceeded to head back to the cemetery. My heart sank. I knew that I couldn't go back to my house because that would entail me crossing this really busy street and potentially showing these guys where I live. As the car drove into the cemetery not far behind me, I went and walked into one of the plots so I could hide myself. I basically crouched down behind a tombstone and prayed that they couldn't see me. The car slowed to a crawl, driving around looking for me. I just stayed hidden, and soon enough, the car drove away. I waited behind the grave for a while before coming out because something told me to stay there longer. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, the SUV was back. I know it was the same car because of the bumper stickers on the rear. Not only was this same SUV back, but it was back with another car. Both of the cars were just slowly driving around where I was. Luckily, I was hiding behind a tombstone with a lot of shrubbery. The driver of the car was yelling something along the lines of, "I'm going to find you, you bitch." I was scared shitless. Thank God both of the cars disappeared out of sight really far back amongst the older gravestones. I saw my chance. I sprinted out of the cemetery and across the street. I got home safe. I got home safe. I just keep replaying what could have happened if I had done something different. I know I wasn't hurt, but I just can't get it off my mind. You see, my city has a bad human trafficking problem, so I'm not just terrified that this happened, but if I could end up in this situation a second time. So, scary guys in a black SUV, let's not meet again. I was around 8 years old at the time. There was a small playground behind our apartment. Me and my friends used to play there every evening. One particular evening, a man was sitting on the flight of stairs that led into the apartment building. They were right across from the playground. Now, as we passed this man from behind to go to the playground, I remember him asking each one of us to come and sit down next to him. He was making this psst sound and calling us near. Three of my friends said no and went far away from him onto the playground. As I passed him, he called me twice and I declined without looking at him. Then he did that psst, you, come here thing, and I still feel ashamed to this day that my friends were smart enough at that age to ignore him while he was able to lure me in. I went over and he sat me down on the stairs next to him. Then I remember being asked a lot of details about me, my school, my mom and dad's profession, etc. I felt no creepy vibes at that time. Every time after answering one of his questions, I remember trying to get up to join my friends on the playground and him grab me by the arm and sit me back down and asking more. I was desperate to go back on the field, so I was answering his questions, hoping that would do something, that they would end soon, but he wouldn't let me go and he just kept asking. So as someone was passing us by on the stairs, I said, "Uncle." He's not letting me go. And he immediately let me go, got up, and walked off. I played for my half an hour that was remaining of my time outside as this man had consumed a big chunk of it. I eventually forgot about him and went back home when I was supposed to. Now, once home, I remembered one of the questions that he asked me that I was not able to answer properly: my home's address. He asked me, "Where do you live?" So I asked my mom, "What is her address?" Confused, she responded, "Why?" And I replied, "There was this person that was downstairs I had met, and he was asking me where I live." All I remember after saying that is my mom freaking out, asking me a load of questions, hugging me tightly, and crying. She hopped on the phone and started interrogating my friends and their parents about what happened. She kept a very close eye on me while I would be playing for the next couple of months. The man was never seen again. A few years later, I saw the movie Slumdog Millionaire and felt goosebumps for half an hour at the scene of the child's eyes being removed to make him beg on the streets. Extra points because I live in India myself, and that it made me picture back how different my life could have possibly been if I was kidnapped and made to beg. I try not to think about it too much, but I still wonder sometimes what his true intentions might have been.